Right, welcome back, and back to you, Dr. Saeed. And you spoke about this national project at launch, how or the areas where it has served. Let me here divide what we've said into sections. So when we start with how those or this huge network of roads, bridges, and access helped or served the Egyptian citizen, before we go into how it served other areas.
Of course, when you build this kind of network of roads, number one, it reduces pollution, which is very important issue. With the climate change and saving the environment, that is a mean. And also we save time, and we should really build the culture of awareness for the people who are traveling. For example, let's take examples. For example,
yes.
in the States, for example, there is a lane called HOV, high occupied vehicle, high occupancy vehicle. If you drive to your work and you have your neighbor living in the same area and working in the same neighborhood where you are working, we don't have to drive by ourselves. We can reduce the number of cars if we really cooperate, 3 or 4 people in the same cars. And Hove Lane, it allow car with 2 or 3 more people driving in this car. So it reduce the traveling time, it reduce consumption of gas and so on, reduce the pollution and so on, and save your money. Instead of driving every day, you can drive 1 week and another partner another week, and the third partner another week, and so on. And that is, it really, it helps individual as well as it helps the environment, and also it helps the economy, because we spend a lot of money in terms of maintenance, we spend a lot of money in terms of gas, we spend a lot of money of wasting time, traveling time, if you travel in the main road, not in the hub road. If we take this idea and implement it in Egypt, we can really gain in individual basis, in environmental basis, and in economical basis. That is when we talk about individual.
But also we're speaking about enormous growth in population. So networks of roads that would facilitate time for people, or facilitate the transportation for people. How would that serve citizens in their work, any urgent matter? How do you view that? Because what we're speaking about, we would have been living in a box.
Yes, yes. I call it as we, in the last 30 or more years, I call it as we have, we are in the sleeping mode. There is no infrastructure, there is no development. And when President Sisi came to power, after 2 revolutions, let's not ignore that, with the black days we faced in all the regimes, and became a person or a leader who have the incentive and we have the encouragement of his people. If you recall the new development in Suez Canal, when he asked his people, I need money, it is a role model for it. It never happened anywhere in the world. When he asked his people, I need money, he got 60 billion Egyptian pound in less than a week. So when you have a trust between leadership and his or her citizens, you can do a lot of more. And I believe President Sisi, sky is not the limit for him. He always, he wanna get better quality of life for his citizen. I remember I used to dream when I used to go to the States, for example, to Europe, even in China. I used to dream we should have, really, my dream to have like 4 lanes. Now we have highways, 12 lane goes in each direction. We have, for trucks, we have certain 2, 3 lanes for trucks and so on. We have a highway or freeways the same as in Europe and so on. That is a quality of life if we really, but I'm talking about the road itself, but if you take the whole picture, it is a new means of development. And remember, and that is, I want to focus on that, the mean for development is based on logistic. If you have a good logistic, you will be able to attract more and more and more foreign direct investment. For example, the black sand factory in Kafr Sheikh, for example, it's Chinese connection with phosphate and so on. We have a French partnership with Belgium, with the green hydrogen. All of this country, it doesn't come to Egypt and invest in Egypt unless you have a major change in infrastructure. Infrastructure in terms of roads, in terms of power supply and so on. We forgot 10 years ago, we used to have a blackout for 6-8 hours a week. Now we have excess or surplus of our power supply. All of that, it came...
New stations, but indeed, the new power stations are enormous.
Absolutely.
And lots of efforts that are exerted, but this is not exactly, we're just focusing today on the network. And from what I meant here, saving time also paved the way for, as you said respectively here, being able to attract foreign investments and to attract investments at large. Before I continue on with our discussion, if we may take this other report, and the national projects put Egypt globally in the 28th place for road quality improvements. Let's watch.
Egypt's road quality is greatly improving, and new roads are being built that will be more convenient and efficient as a result of national road initiatives. Egypt's rating in worldwide road quality rose from 118th to 28th. The National Road Network was established in 2014 as part of President Fattah al-Sisi's initiative. It focused to build 3,300 kilometers of new roads. Furthermore, this project is regarded as one of the most significant achievements in Egyptian road history, as it aims to achieve sustainable development by integrating this network with existing rail and river transport networks, as well as creating logistics areas to achieve a sustainable transportation system. The network has grown, and different modes of transportation have been introduced over the last 7 years, including 3 new metro lines, an electric train that connects to the new administrative capital passing through Al Abur and Al Shuru areas and up to the administrative capital, and the monorail. This is a significant step forward for Egypt, as new roads and modes of transportation are being introduced to make a difference and bring stability to our community. This is tremendously useful to the economy because it requires stable infrastructure to connect supply chains and move products and services across borders efficiently. Infrastructure also connects households throughout urban areas to higher quality employment, healthcare, and education options. Meanwhile, number of national and strategic road projects in this year's plan includes about 45 projects. Minister of Planning and Economic Development Helal Said said that the plan includes construction of 10 transverse axes on the Nile and the establishment of 18 overpasses. 2022-2023 plan also includes completion of the implementation of 1,000 kilometers in the field of electrification of railway signals, expansion of a metro network, in addition to the completion of 47 stations of the express train project. The minister added that the plan also includes completion of the rehabilitation and lining of canals with a length of about 6,000 kilometers.
Right, welcome back. And I guess the picture speaks for itself, and what we've seen in the report of the new roads and networks across all the governorates of Egypt. Dr. Sayed, we were speaking about how would new networks of roads and bridges and access and tunnels serve in attracting more business or more investments to Egypt. How do you view that?
First of all, in the report, Egypt advance, and when we measure advancing in a country, there is a measure which is called, or indicator, Global Competitiveness Index. And one of this, it is the quality of roads or quality of land transportation in your country. And Egypt, when we really become 28th in the rest of the world, that is a huge advances. It didn't happen in the last 50 years. And remember, you mentioned a very important issue. Why we're building all of these roads? Why we're building all of these lanes, 6 lanes in one direction and the other direction? Remember, when you look for the future, our population increase, not decrease. And we're building for, not for this year or next year, we're building these roads for the next 50 years, and we're expecting the increase of population and so on. And we're building this road in order to have a new city, a new civil area in different places all over Egypt. I told you before, I visited places from Aswan to Delta and so on, and you saw this road or infrastructure. It is not only in the big city, in a rural area. It's connecting one government with another government, and so on. We're building bridges over the Nile, and also we're building tunnels and bridges to attach Sinai to the mainland. And in my opinion, the future will go for Sinai, and we have a lot of minerals, a lot of natural resources. And if you don't have the road infrastructure going to this area, to Sinai, foreign direct investment will not come invest in Sinai. And that is the future of Egypt in Sinai, the future of Egypt in terms of agriculture, in order to transform all the agriculture product to the mainland, to the big city. You need to have a logistic, and that is the land logistic is very important issue.
Minister of Transportation Kamel El-Wazir said that within the framework of Egypt 2030 Sustainable Development Strategy, the state is implementing a comprehensive plan to develop and modernize the country's transportation system at large. When we speak about the transportation system at large, we're speaking about roads, we're speaking about bridges, we're speaking about railways, undergrounds, electric railways, seaports, rivers, all these. But today we are on the roads and bridges and networks of those roads projects. If I may ask you here, how would that contribute to the economy? Of course, as the minister spoke, he spoke about it goes in parallel with Egypt's 2030 Sustainable Development Vision. So how does that go in parallel?
Remember, with Egypt Vision 2030, include all different sectors. And when you talk about transportation, in terms of achieving the objective of agriculture sector, you need transportation. All means of transportation. I know your focus in land transportation or internal transportation, but we need all different.
Because the port's
type of
transportation would need 2 or 3 episodes for
Absolutely,
us to speak
absolutely,
about,
absolutely.
particularly this latest one in Alexandria.
Yesterday in Alexandria, that's a mega project.
Indeed.
And also, when you talk about industry, moving raw material from one place to another place, you need an efficient and effective road transportation. In terms of tourism, for example, which is I consider it as industry, you need a good network with infrastructure in terms of road and tunnels. Remember, the advantage for citizen, as we mentioned, you reduce the time of your trip, you reduce pollution, and you generate a lot of civil service in the left or the right of your new roads. And that is only land transportation. But also for railway transportation is another thing which we consider to have a lot of development in that area in the last few years.
Dr. Syed, let me quote some of the critical questions that were raised, particularly recently by people. Why do we need networks of roads, bridges, and electric transportation, and electric metro, and the speedy railway, and all this, and how does this serve a citizen instead of bringing food?
Remember when I told you we were in the sleepy mood for the last 30, 40 years?
Because
that is the issue.
Seriously, because people are speaking about that all the time. So we really want to address such an issue so as people would really understand what we are speaking about.
That's why we are here. Remember, awareness is very important. As I told you, President Sisi, he means a change. And there is also, when you do change, on the other side of the coin, you have a resistance to change. We are talking about the language of priority. Infrastructure, I consider it, and the decision maker consider it as a first priority. You cannot have growth unless you have infrastructure in all different means of infrastructure. In order to attract foreign direct investment, no foreign direct investment will come to invest in Egypt if you don't have infrastructure. You are not going to be advanced to the 28th level if you don't invest in infrastructure. So we're talking about here vision versus basic needs. And we're talking about change and the power of change. If you remember when I stayed before, there is a huge difference between myths and reality. We used to talk about myths. Myths, it means you have to feed people, you have, and there is no development. And that is what I call it as the sleeping mode. When you travel from Cairo to New York, for example, when you cross from in the Atlantic Ocean, they turn off the light and everybody goes to sleep. We're in the sleeping mode for 20, 30 years. There is no development. And when we have the leadership, it came to power and he mean a change, there is also resistance. And we use the forces of resistance where it comes from. And that is the black days of Egypt. Now we have, we are in the world map of roads. We are advanced to 28th level right now, and we are not Europe, we are not the Gulf state, but with the will of Egyptian people, of the leadership of Egypt, we made the change and will be able to overcome the resistance in the near future, inshallah, because people see it in reality. And that is the difference between myths and reality. Myths, we promise, but we don't see things in reality.
Tangible.
And tangible road is tangible, infrastructure is tangible, power is
Yes.
tangible, and so on.
Yes.
So when you have a will, you have a drive, and this president, this leadership, he has the will, and
Yes.
also have the will to build social and the quality of life for Egyptian people, and we saw it in many different places in Egypt in the last few days.
Indeed. Indeed, Dr. Said Al-Khouly, indeed, what we are seeing is really building the future and really building what we need and we aspire for our future and the future of our generations to come. Fortunately, my time is out and
Cross your finger,
I'll say inshallah.
inshallah.
Dr. Said Al-Khouly, former Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, Ain Shams University, we thank you so much for being with us.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Wana.
The pleasure is all mine, sir. Thank you so much. And I guess that takes us to the end of the episode. But before we end the episode, I'll leave you here with the presidency in a weekend, the president's activities during 1 week.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi returns home after an overseas tour in the southern region of the African continent, including Angola, Zambia, and Mozambique. The tour is the first of its kind for an Egyptian president and reflects Egypt's keenness on fostering cooperation with all African states. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi visits the military academy in an inspection tour. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi leads the funeral procession of the mother of the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, at Tantawi Mosque in New Cairo. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi congratulates Egypt's Al Ahly club on claiming their 11th African title. Sisi applauds the historic achievement made by the national team, as well as the high spirit and determination shown by the Pharaohs during the final game. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi receives Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammad Shia al-Sudani and his high-level government delegation at the Presidential Palace. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi arrives in Al Abadeya village, Bihira Governorate, to inaugurate a number of projects being implemented as part of the Decent Life initiative. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi inspects the Technological University in Burj Al Arab city. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi attends the National Conference for Youth in Burj Al Arab, Alexandria. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi witnesses the inauguration of the Tahya Misr multi-purpose terminal in the Grand Port of Alexandria and raises the flag on Wadi Muluk vessel, the largest and most modern ship of the Egyptian merchant fleet. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi inspects development works of some